Okay, welcome along for another lore video. There's a couple of things that have happened. There's been a development with the Golconda and with Salvation. The Golconda first then. The Artificers clan, which has been hanging around the Golconda for the last week or so, without really saying what they're doing there or communicating with anybody, well, we've now got an update on that. They have begun to retrofit the generation ship Golconda into a fully operational modern vessel. Jonathan Forrester, the former captain of the vacated 22nd century craft, provided this statement to Vox Galactica. When the Dredger clan first appeared in the Upaniclist system, we feared they'd come to salvage the Golconda. Instead, to our surprise, they've initiated engineering work on it, reinforcing the ship's structural integrity, repairing damaged components, and installing modern engines and navigational systems. Yet the decks where our community previously lived remain untouched. The Artificers didn't request permission to do this, which upset many of us, but today we received a message expressing a strange, childlike excitement at finding what they called a dead hulk, and their determination to revive it for us. With their incredible skills, it's possible that the Golconda could become spaceworthy again within weeks. This has prompted a huge debate among my people. Should we return to our old home? Some have come accustomed to the benefits of living at this outpost. Others believe we should resume journeying between the stars, as our ancestors did for centuries. Many are looking to me for leadership, and I must admit to finding such a decision hard. I thought the Golconda was our history, but perhaps it still holds our future. So yeah, that's pretty weird. The Artificers just turn up and decide off their own back to patch up the Golconda and bring it up to modern engineering standards and make it spaceworthy again. Now, I did speculate in the last video that it might be something like this. Not quite the way it's turned out. I thought they might do a deal with the Golconda either to have the ship for themselves or to say, look, in return for whatever, we will fix your ship up for you, and then you've got the option, if you want, of staying on the Federation outpost that's been created for you, or once again continuing on your travels, but you'll have the option. And so it seems that's what they've done. They've patched it all up. Apparently free of charge, apparently without wanting anything in return, and just for the joy of engineering. Now remember that the Artificers clan have almost become machine-like themselves. In the logs from the Artificer from when it appeared in the beta, we saw one of their crew describing his servos as twitching in anticipation. So they're almost machine-like themselves now. And it could just be that they are obsessed with engineering and improving everything that they come across, and that's what they get a kick out of doing. That seems to be the driving force and motivation behind their actions. So here is the Golconda. And not that it was looking in particularly bad shape to start with, but we are now assured that this is almost spaceworthy. And presumably what is necessary to make it spaceworthy can now be finished off by the Golconda crew themselves. And there you go, that's that big solar sail arrangement on the front of the ship. Quite amazing, the detail that they put into these. Really love it. Everything looking nice and pristine and new. There's your hydroponic plants for growing food, your habitation rings, big rockets at the back. So I guess there's going to be a debate now, an ongoing debate with the crew of the Golconda, who wants to stay at the Forester's Choice outpost, and who wants to go on the Golconda and carry on exploring. We'll have to wait and see how that story develops, but there you go. That's another step on the way to that one. And there's been a lot of stories involving the Dredger clans, because we've also had the Blue Viper Dredger clan have now stopped supporting Golconda Lane and taken off, and there's now speculation that Gay Valentine, who we are now told was born on there, on the Blue Viper Dredger, and who arranged a deal between the Dredger clan and Delane for the new strain of Onion Head, amongst other things, may have been working to undermine him all along. That rebellion, the CG, has just finished. It's been crushed. You only had the chance to fight for the Kumo crew and Golconda Lane anyway. That community goal ended today. There are no community goals today because of these two stories coming out. This one with the Golconda, and the second story for this video, which involves Salvation. So alright, for those of you who have done work for Aegis before, you would have got this message today. I obviously didn't do the right thing for Aegis. I did take them Guardian artifacts in the first CG. In the second CG, I took them to Salvation instead. I don't know if that's why I didn't get this message, just like I didn't get the message for going to the Alexandria, and so I've taken this message from another commander. Thank you to them for posting it. It's from Professor Alba Tesreau, ex-Aegis, of course. Commander, this is Professor Alba Tesreau. As you know, Aegis has been shut down. I've kept the records of those commanders who supported Aegis's work in the past. Hope you don't mind. Earlier today, I received a curious message. All it said was, and there's some coordinates there, and after that it says, "Who is Salvation?" Such cryptic messages aren't rare. You'd be surprised how many people think they have a tip-off on some grand secret or another. But this one included a data tag unique to the Oaken Point facility that Azimuth formerly operated. The coordinates map to the DG Canum Venaticorum system. I'm going to fly there now, but I'd like you to take a look yourself, if you can. If there's something to be found, we can draw media attention with enough witnesses. Salvation may have won the superpower's trust, but perhaps we can prove that trust is misplaced. So, okay. There's an old saying that if something looks too good to be true, then it probably is. And I was never convinced that Salvation was completely goody-goody. I think it would be a bit of a cliche if he turned out to be some evil nutter after all, but let's go to the DG Canum Venaticorum system and find out what's going on. The system itself is only 173 light years from the Golconda, making it very easy to quickly jump between one story and another to check these out. Don't believe I've been here before, so let's scan the place. 24 bodies. Let's get fleet carriers out of the picture. Alright, this doesn't show up until you go in DSSC, bodies themselves, and you're looking for body A4A. And this point of interest here, which is called Iraxon Lane. And if you look, you'll see that it has the telltale exploration tag, meaning that it's story related as opposed to the artificial structures, impact sites, minor wreckage, and the usual Odyssey landmarks. So Iraxon Lane is where we're headed. When you get to Iraxan Lane, you can see it's an old deserted base. But if we go to the sign on the gateways into the base, we can see it's not just any old deserted base. It's an old INRA base. INRA, the people who deployed the mycoid virus against the Thargoids that ended the first Thargoid War. The virus that attacked the Thargoids' biomechanical systems, killed the majority of them and drove the rest away, more or less ending the war. INRA, who sent Commander John Jameson in his Cobra to fire the missile at the Thargoid mothership with the mycoid virus on it, who lied to him, telling him it was simply going to disrupt their frameshift drives and force them to retreat. And he was horrified to learn, having fired the missile, that it was also wiping out the Thargoids as well. And INRA sabotaged John Jameson's ship so that he would crash land and die on a nearby planet after firing the missile, so that he wouldn't be able to divulge the truth about his mission. We're going to land and find the logs.
Landing gear deployed.
So you drive around the base, you'll find 5 discovered logs labelled Azimuth Contract. You'll also find these if you scan the 2 data points, regular data points that are here, tagged encryption codes, and this little message. Key length was too short, going to use a longer one. Hang on, keep an eye out. Don't know what that may or may not refer to. It may or may not refer to these logs, but the logs are what we are here for. So let's give them a listen.
This is Caleb Wycherley, Vice President of Research at Azimuth Biochemicals. I've been assigned oversight of our work with INRA over the next few months. While the financial aspects of the contract are considerable, there is much to be gained from this new partnership. INRA possesses a number of remarkable talents with whom a positive working relationship will benefit Azimuth's continued growth. The opportunities of such a network will help establish a market lead over Pharmasapien. Perhaps in time that second-rate company will learn its place in the broader picture. One can hope, at least. Azimuth's role in the anti-Thargoid initiative is encouraging. But this ongoing war is tiresome. The resources spent on proving that humanity is the dominant species in the galaxy would be better served elsewhere. I find the Thargoids' persistent aggression towards us offensive. INRA's work may be the best chance we have to end the conflict. On that note, Azimuth will help the development of a biological weapon. We have several potential compounds which show some promise. Our expertise in biochemical research will no doubt prove valuable to the initiative. I'm eager to see what the future holds. A fortuitous development has occurred. Lady Luck smiles upon us. Our biological weapons research has shown limited success up to now. However, a research assistant of INRA has stumbled upon the incredible potential of a fungus, of all things. An agricultural experiment involving Thargoid technology revealed the fungus's highly damaging properties. I understand the researcher had to bypass his superior to bring this discovery to light. A weaker-willed individual would have disregarded the results as instructed. Fortunate for us, this man is made of sterner stuff. I expect the researcher will receive little official recognition, however. It's amusing, really. This man may have uncovered the means of ending the war, Yet the nature of INRA's work will ensure that humanity never knows his name. The subsequent meeting about this fungus's potential for weaponization was enlightening. From the very specific wording used by lead INRA figures, I suspect that information is being withheld from subcontractors such as myself. Understandable, of course. Still, I have a strong suspicion that INRA possesses at least one live Thargoid specimen. I'm keen to witness a live test on Thargoid physiology. I'll spend the evening with my peers. It shouldn't be too difficult to persuade them that my presence would be beneficial for such a test. The live Thargoid test was fascinating, to say the least. The new scar across my face is evidence of that. I arrived shortly before the test was scheduled to take place. As the fungal compound, now termed mycoid, was prepared, the Thargoid specimen broke out of its holding cell, the last in a series of escape attempts. There were multiple fatalities, and I am fortunate not to be counted among them. Medical treatment was a success, though my left eye will need further surgical attention. The creature was savage and difficult to subdue. One wonders how these mindless things develop the impressive technology they use. Despite my injury, I was ready to return for the introduction of the mycoid compound. The results were exactly as hoped, resulting in the Thargoid's demise. Some INRA personnel have requested transfers away from the project, citing the ethical concerns of living test subjects. These people clearly lack the will to protect humanity by any means necessary. The mycoid compound has been approved for mass production at several INRA facilities. Azimuth's contribution to the manufacturing process has been noted. It now falls to my team to propose methods of delivering the compound to Thargoid targets. A missile seems the logical solution, though questions of mycoid containment and virulence upon impact must first be answered. The meeting with leading INRA figures has concluded. Final preparations of the mycoid weapon are underway at Taylor Keep. The plan is to send a long vessel towards the Thargoid hive ship that recently attacked Carmichael Point. Not many pilots possess the courage or the skill to complete such a mission. I suspect that a member of the Pilots Federation will be required, given the challenges of this assignment. A list of potential candidates is being drawn up. I've reviewed the classified documentation related to the mycoid weapon's payload. For such a highly secretive organization, INRA's network security protocols took only a few hours to bypass. It seems INRA leaders anticipate the mycoid virus will inflict significant damage to not only the mothership, but also its occupants. The payload has been specifically designed to do so. While I approve of the decision to eradicate the many Thargoids on board, communication records reveal a convoluted discussion to reach agreement on this tactic. I wonder why the decision to strike a decisive blow against our enemy was such a difficult one. Earlier today, I secured a regular supply of progenitor cells. My recent brush with death served as a reminder of my own mortality. And there is far too much work to do in a typical human lifespan. The operation to fully restore my sight was a success, but has left my eye completely white. This appears to have prompted a new nickname among my staff, some of who are now referring to me as the Witch. The wordplay is amusing, I suppose, but perhaps such a pseudonym will have its uses. The mycoid weapon has been successfully delivered by Commander John Jameson. The brave pilot did not return home. A shame. I would have liked to shake the hand of a man who has contributed so profoundly to the end of the Thargoid War. Reports suggest that the remaining Thargoid forces are in full retreat from human space. Some INRA personnel are convinced this is a decisive victory, from which the Thargoids will not recover. But I disagree. It is likely they will resurface in time, too impudent to accept human dominance. We must prepare for that eventuality. INRA has served its purpose, but the cross-superpower nature of the organization leaves it vulnerable to corruption and politics. Azimuth is well suited to take up the mantle of protecting humanity against any Thargoid retaliation. Our rivals, such as Pharmasapien, cannot be trusted with this task. They lack the patience and the stomach for what is required. Only Azimuth, under my direction, will be capable of the necessary action to wipe the Thargoid race out forever. If I must be humanity's salvation, then so be it.
So, okay, there's a lot to unpack from this. Caleb Wycherley was the Vice President of the Research Department of Azimuth Biochemicals. Azimuth was contracted by INRA, and Wycherley was assigned by Azimuth to work with INRA. He's clearly a human supremacist and xenophobe, as seen by his disparaging remarks about the Thargoids, expressing disbelief that such primitives could develop the technology they have, and calling them impudent for not recognising human superiority. It doesn't seem that he was responsible for developing the mycod virus itself, but he was clearly supportive of the research and took a sadistic pleasure in watching Thargoids being experimented on. He was injured while witnessing one of these experiments on a live Thargoid, which broke free and attacked him, and it left him scarred with damage to his left eye, which earned him the nickname of the Witch, Wycherley the Witch. He was responsible for designing the missile that John Jameson fired at the Thargoid mothership, but he was obviously unaware that INRA had sent Jameson on a one-way trip, and he's been extending his life with progenitor cells to fulfill his ambition to destroy the Thargoids once and for all. So it's pretty obvious that these messages are supposed to imply that Salvation and the Witch are the same person, that this is the same person who attacked the Alexandria 200 years after these logs were recorded and murdered the crew. And it's quite obvious the conclusion that Alba Tesreau wants us to draw from all of this. Salvation is really an evil nutter. But does this really add up? We're told that Pharmasapien took over Azimuth, and these logs clearly state that Wycherley did not trust them to get the job done. If Pharmasapien took over Azimuth, it seems unlikely that Wycherley would have kept his job there. So what happened? Did Azimuth survive somehow? Or go off and reform in secret? And if so, how recently was that? And if Salvation was behind the attack, if Salvation is this Caleb Wycherley character, who's apparently lived for over 200 years now, is that even possible? I don't know. Both Edmund Mahon and Lee Yong-rui are over 100. But is it possible for anybody to live to over 200? I don't know. If Salvation was behind the attack on the Alexandria, why bother warning Cornsar that they were going to be attacked by Thargoids? That could be an attempt to create a good public image to cover up his nefarious activities behind the scenes. It could be that he's got no axe to grind with other people, but some kind of specific grudge against Aegis for some reason. But why? If he considers them useless, why not just ignore them and do his own thing? I suppose INRA could be seen as having a grudge against Aegis, since Aegis replaced them, but he wasn't actually a member of INRA, and is that enough of a reason to hate them enough to destroy a megaship and kill the crew? And the point's been made as well by some players that even if this is all true, and Salvation is Caleb Wycherley, would the superpowers really care about him destroying the Alexandria anyway? All of them have done things just as bad, so as long as he gets results, they may not give a damn. After all, INRA was formed by the Federation and the Empire, and they clearly had no scruples about what they got up to, as long as they won the war. And why would Salvation bother to let us in on the whole Azimuth story if it also serves as evidence to convict him with? He's clearly intelligent, and it makes no sense that an intelligent man would give anyone evidence that could be used against him. So, while this can all be seen as a damning indictment of Salvation, it could also be someone else trying to set him up. Perhaps Aegis resent him doing a better job, and this is all a revenge campaign to discredit him. Because the only thing that really links Caleb Wycherley, the Witch, to being Salvation is his last sentence. If I must be humanity's salvation, so be it. Now part of me thinks that's too neat, too convenient, too obvious, and very circumstantial, rather than hard evidence. One sentence. And it also wouldn't be the first time the player base has been ready to convict someone on somebody else's say-so. We saw this with the NMLA, when there were those who were quite happy to convict innocent Marlinists as terrorists, even though, as it turned out, they had nothing to do with the attacks. And I also find classifying people as good and evil to be a bit childish, to be honest, and I prefer a story to have characters who do good and bad things, because real people are complex. We often get it wrong while we're trying to do the right thing. Rather than being genuinely evil or having a genuine desire to do bad things, we sometimes end up doing bad things out of a misguided effort to do something good. And from the comments by people like Arthur Tolmie from FDev about storytelling in general, he's clearly aware of cliches and overly simplistic plots. So I would be very disappointed if the story wasn't more sophisticated than this, and there isn't another twist in the tale still to come. I think it's all been presented in a very kind of one-sided way. I never thought that anybody was just a good guy or just a bad guy. There's good, bad and indifferent in everybody, and I think that the people telling this story know that. But yeah, that's it from me for now. My thoughts on that, make of them what you will. Argue with them as much as you like. Post your own thoughts in the comments, please do. Hopefully it won't be too long before this story continues, because that's a bit of a bombshell to drop, and you know that it's going to have players jumping to conclusions left, right and centre, so this cannot wait too long before being continued, and as soon as it is, and as soon as I know more, so will you. Thanks for watching.